The Toronto Raptors have made a new signing as Eugene Omoruyi, the Canadian forward, has been a standout to start off this season. And this marks the start of what we expect to be a very active deadline for the Toronto Raptors. So we'll discuss that, including one of the vets on the Toronto Raptors once again being thrown in different trade proposals. So lots of stuff to dive into in this video. But before we do, folks, again, if you guys are a part of the over 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, and you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team as we enter this transaction season, and as we're predicting, it's already started. Moves are about to be made for this Toronto Raptors team. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team, especially if you're missing the games, because again, they've been a tougher watch as of late. But let's dive into this signing first, as the Raptors have brought in Eugene Omoruyi, who is a guy that's a very interesting piece. He's a pretty athletic sort of forward out there. He's been with the 905 over the course of the season and has been a standout player. From everyone talking that's been watching 905 games, they've been appreciating his talent. I tuned into all the highlights and stuff and has been a positive player, but news has come out today that he's being rewarded for being on the Raptors 905 as the Raptors are signing Eugene Omoruyi to a 10-day contract. A great reward for a standout Raptors 905 player so far this season. Some extra and has a chance to see his NBA fit. So this is a nice pick up, a nice little acquisition to see what you have. And this is once the Toronto Raptors ended up waiving a guy like Bruno Fernando. This was the point of that waiving, because they want to have more flexibility. They want to have more options to see what types of players they have at the NBA level, over the course of this next month leading into this year's trade deadline. So expect a lot of G League guys, whether they're in the Raptors 905, whether they are, out there on different teams being plucked in. Expect them to be signed to a ton of 10-day contracts over the next few weeks, and then whoever Masai, Ujiri, Bobby Webster ends up liking the most will likely get a final roster spot or end up getting a two-way, and then Jamison Battle's contract ended up getting converted. But who the heck is this, Eugene Omoruyi? Because he's a Canadian, he's bounced around the NBA a little bit, and is a very interesting player. I mean, taking a look at his stats over the course of his NBA career, was a late sort of selection, came into the league as a rookie at 24 years old, is 26 here now at this point, and over the last few seasons has put up some solid stats. I mean, over his two teams in 2022-2023, averaged 7 points per game for 17 games at Detroit, average close to 10 points per night, which is a very tough thing to do at the NBA level, no matter what level of team you're on. 21 minutes, averaging 10 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1 assist, being an effective defender, being just a guy that can have an impact on a team. That is very, very intriguing. Now, looking at him in terms of his, profile, who he is as a basketball player, he's listed at 6'7". I've seen different places state him as 6'9", but officially at Basketball Reference lists him at 6'7", 244. He's very strong. He's very, well built out there, and it says he's from Nigeria. He's a Nigerian as well as Canadian citizen, so he played for Orangeville, so out there in Ontario. So a guy that has had some NBA experience, has bounced around the main. It's not just like your average D-leaguer that hasn't had any run, hasn't had any success out there in the NBA. You can see by his stats, he is a dude that has been pretty effective out there in terms of having a 17-game stretch where you're averaging 10 points per game. That is very, very solid, especially for a guy coming in on a 10-day contract. So intriguing stuff there. And over the course for the Toronto Raptors 905, again, for the 4 games that he's played over the course of the season, during this regular season stretch, right, he is shooting 46% from the three-point line, which is one thing. Again, it's a very small sample size, only shooting 3.3 attempts per game, but that is encouraging for a forward that's out there developing his three-point shot. Of course, in the main NBA, he's not getting a ton of three-point looks, but you can see over the G League stretches, again, small sample sizes, but those three-point numbers are increasing. And, going from 20% to 33% to 46%, that is positive. Again, small sample size. Don't expect him to come out here and be Klay Thompson, but he is a guy that has been improving at a pretty solid rate, in terms of his three-point shooting. Given his athleticism, his ability to rebound, to do different stuff, right? He is a guy that could, again, he's a prospect. He's a 905 player. He's not a guy that's guaranteed going to have an impact right away. But as we saw last year, there were a ton of guys that had 10-day contract opportunities, that had these types of runs, and were given the opportunity to show what they could do. Did any of them really run with it? No. DJ Carton, you can argue, played pretty well, but then got injured. Jamias Ramsey was pretty polished and ended up getting a spot with the Celtics, but this isn't a guy that's going to be immediately game-changing, but this is the point of these 10-day contracts. You get an opportunity to show, hey, I'm worth it. I'm a valuable player in the NBA. I could be an impact guy on your roster. And, always rooting for the Canadians to kind of come up and make their push. So wishing for him to really take advantage of this opportunity, get some run. Of course, minutes are limited right now for the Toronto Raptors, as they're, even Chris Boucher's been on the bench, another Canadian who I imagine they're going to showcase. So I don't know if he's going to get a ton of run on this 10-day stint, but getting him up with the main group, with the main roster, is a positive experience. And, I think I wouldn't be shocked if he does get some run. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up playing well, proving himself in practices especially. He actually is a rotation piece by the second half of the season, when a lot of these vets, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Boucher, could easily be traded. And then, a lot of 10-day guys, a lot of 905 guys, the same way we had Cart, we had Mamadou Gueye, we had Jamias Ramsey, we had all these dudes lined up in the rotation last season to close out last year. So, interesting piece. Let me know what you guys think about him as a 10-day signing. But that's not the only thing we're discussing in this video here today, as we do have another Bruce Brown trade proposal. As, it's the time of year. Trade season's picking up. Again, there's not any real crazy blockbuster moves that could be made, with the exception of a Jakob Poeltl trade, which I wouldn't be shocked if his name starts going to room, especially with how ugly just the team has been playing as of late. But Bruce Brown is clearly a guy that we all expect to be dealt in the coming days. And now Bleacher Report's thrown out a fairly interesting trade proposal for Bruce Brown. Essentially, the Raptors seem like selective sellers, as they've resisted inquiries for Jakob Poeltl and are reportedly open to trading away Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk, as we've known. We've already covered out here on the channel from Mark Stein. But a proposed trade from Bleacher Report is Bruce Brown to the San Antonio Spurs for Zach Collins, Malachi Branham, and Sidi Sissoko, who is our guy Josh, who does Habs Digest as well. It's also on Spurs Digest, he's a fan of. But and then a 2025 first-round pick. Now, there's weird protections on this pick, because you see this and you're like, hey, a first-round pick from the Charlotte Hornets? Let's go. Well, as you can see, it's lottery protected out here in this sort of trade proposal. That's the asset that could be coming back to the Toronto Raptors. And essentially, this trade asset, this this Hornets pick, would be converted to 2 seconds if it doesn't convey the season. And given how bad the Charlotte Hornets are this year, I don't project them to really be outside the lottery, be in the playoff picture this season. Now, who knows? Maybe it could be a sneaky buy low on this pick. But this is a trade that I'm intrigued by, because, of course, Bruce Brown right now has been bad. I don't want to say horrific, but just hasn't been good since returning from injury. Hasn't been great. He's shooting 16% from the three-point line, averaging 5 points per game. The fact that we could have got a first from last season is biting it's biting us in the tail right now. It's looking like, in terms of just the injury situation, it's not really his fault, but apparently there is still some interest out there in Bruce Brown out there in the open market. So getting 2 second-round picks in next year's NBA draft doesn't seem like a bad haul, but you are also taking back a not great contract in Zach Collins. Now, it's not great for most teams because, again, Collins is a guy, 5 points per game, 3.2 rebounds, 1.6 assists, but he's making like $15 million per year this season, and then another $16-17 million per year next season. So those 2 years on that contract make it not super enticing right now. But for a Toronto Raptors team that is looking for the future and could view him as an expiring contract next season, just to load up on picks, to take back salary, to do different stuff, I mean, it's not a bad guy to take a flyer on. He's 27 years old. He can play the center position. He can knock down three-point shots and did have some potential at points over his career. The big thing with Zach Collins is the guy just could not stay healthy for a large portion of his career. So definitely not a player that is a crazy, like, let's go get him, let's get hyped up about it, but it is an interesting piece to bring back, especially as a tradable contract out there for the future. So those are all things that you can factor in. Again, I'm not complaining if we get 2 second-round picks, especially 2 Hornets second-round picks for a Bruce Brown out there in 2026. And again, the roster's pretty loaded here now at this point in terms of players and stuff, so expect some minor moves to happen definitely ahead of this year's trade deadline. Don't be surprised the Raptors do get involved in like 3-team deals, like a Jimmy Butler deal in terms of moving pieces around, moving trades. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys must take as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.